I started buying some coins, and I already know what you're gonna say. Oh, you're stupid for buying coins because it is low. You don't. Why do you buy when it's low, right? That's like, yes, I'm buying now when it's low, and I'm gonna show you exactly why, and also a little bit what I bought and how I'm looking at my portfolio right now, because I'm basing my portfolio off of my goals, right? If I need a 3x, then I'm not gonna buy the most high risk coins out there. In this case, specifically for my situation, I'm now like, the goal is to kind of get a 5x, 4x, 5x, and then I'm good. So I don't need to look at the most risky stuff out there, but it's also pretty clear to me what level I feel like I'm comfortable buying. And that was actually this level. But it's a DCA process, of course, because I'm not going to say that the market cannot go lower. In the meantime, it definitely could, but it also means that the market could go higher in the meantime. And actually, if I look what's going on in the crypto market right now, with the altcoin market being down, Bitcoin being down, I don't want this to be for nothing, right? So let's take advantage, and I'm gonna show you why, right? That's the most important thing. I'm not gonna just show you like, hey, I'm buying because I want to buy and it's always good. There will be times in the market where you definitely don't want to be there, and I will definitely not be here when it's that time, but this is not that time. And it's pretty clear to me. So welcome to the Fomo Factory. Like the video if you like the video. And if you already feel like I'm not gonna like the video, you're gonna comment anyway. So that's also good for the algorithm. Thank you. Have a blessed day, everybody, today. So this cycle has been showing like, hey, it is not the typical cycle right now, right? It's very simple. If we look at Bitcoin right now, yeah, it is not weird what's happening at the moment, right? Bitcoin is now down 27%. And if you feel like that's bad, we saw a correction right here, which was 31% in this same cycle. Here we saw a correction, which was 33%. And here we had a couple of drawbacks, which were a little lower. Overall, we saw many of these kind of corrections, right? So the amount that crypto is down, that doesn't really seem to be the problem. The thing that I think that makes people bearish right now is the fact that it's now Q4 of the post-halving year, and that historically almost always topped or marked the top of the bull run, right? We talked a lot about this. It was the case in 2021, 2017, 2013, 2011, not so much actually, but nobody seems to talk about that. But then again, 3 times in a row must be a trend. Cool. So we looked a lot at the ISM. And I see a lot more people nowadays talking about the ISM. But this is something that we should definitely pay attention to, because the ISM, for the people that have missed that, it's not something that I feel like, wow, this is new and this is now what we should follow. This was always more accurate than everything else, than a 4-year cycle theory or whatsoever. But it was my mistake for not looking at it earlier. But if we look at Bitcoin overlaid with the ISM, you can pretty clearly see that the ISM is the leading indicator for when Bitcoin is going to top out. And it makes sense because the ISM responds to everything macro-wise, right? So whether we talk about rate cuts, the Fed balance sheet, the inflation data, it's all the money supply, it's all added up in this big-ass blue line right here. And what you can also see is that Bitcoin never went into a real bear market without the ISM tanking. Matter of fact, ISM always topped out and Bitcoin topped out. ISM topped out, Bitcoin topped out, here as well. Here the ISM for the first time went kind of sideways, and would you know, for the first time Bitcoin went kind of sideways. This is already way more accurate than the 4-year cycle theory, yet most people seem to just stick to that theory. And I feel like, okay, but if something else is more accurate, then at least take that also into consideration, right? Now, if you look at the ISM, yeah, we are still in bear market levels, which might explain why Bitcoin now also for the first time didn't go parabolic, right? It is slow but steady, just like the ISM right now. Now, it could be, like I said in the previous video, that it will stall out for a little bit. I honestly think that this in December will go to 50, and that's not like that big. But what's the reason? I mean, maybe we will get a rate cut in December, maybe not. Like, but that 125 basis point rate cut is not going to make a world of difference anyway. We need a Fed chair that's going to cut the crap out of these rates, right? And that's what's going to happen anyway in May when Powell is going to leave the Fed chair. So that's a good thing. So that's already something that we can check off as for the narrative. The other thing, of course, QT is going to stop from next month. All right, so that's a real good reason to be bullish on altcoins because, yeah, QT and altcoins are like Tom and Jerry. It's like sometimes it seems like, okay, they can get along, but actually they just try to kill each other. At least one tries to kill the other. So that's something that we definitely need. But for now, for the coming months, I don't see a big reason why this will go up very hard, or the unemployment rate numbers that are going to come out today have to be really bullish, but I doubt it. Like I think that this could be slow but steady. In the meantime, maybe Bitcoin worst case to 70K. You have to think about it like this. Apart from the ISM, if you look at Bitcoin, it never went into a parabolic run. So the people that are now calling for a bear market, it depends what the definition of a bear market is, right? I see a scenario where Bitcoin could go to $70,000, but I don't know if I can call that a bear market, really. But I've said that before, 70K worst case scenario, and in that case, I will be there to buy that dip, right? Because again, the ISM, it doesn't really have room to go down a lot. You could make the case like, well, if something like this happens, right? Like, yeah, this was COVID. We had the big financial crisis. We had the dot-com bubble, right? Like all these things are so short-lived, as you can see. And what do then? They turn on money printers. So as long as you are not longing or shorting the market, right? We all seen in October what could happen. Don't do that. But as long as you're not doing that, then this could only be a great opportunity if a recession like that occurs. But it doesn't really have to be a long-term bet. Matter of fact, more money is going to end up in crypto after that. So the only downside sustainably that I see is here. I don't see what the narrative could be from this point because things are bad and can only get better. You would say like could always get worse, but I don't know. So in that case, I feel like maybe 70K, all right, worst case. But apart from that, I don't really know what's... So a real bear market to like $40,000, yeah, you have to be like Apple. You have to say like, okay, let's not take a look at what kind of cycle soever. Let's not take a look at narratives. Let's not take a look at macro. Let's not take a look at TA. Let's only assume that there will ever be a black swan, right? Yeah, but that could always happen, right? Like that's not something that you want to trade if you are a smart trader or investor, in my opinion. So I was looking at the altcoin market and I was like, I'm buying right now, right? And I want to make it very clear, like why you don't see me being bearish on low prices right now. First thing, again, the long term, it looks fantastic. It looks good, right? If the ISM was now already sitting at the top, right? If we have euphoria, if we have a lot of retail, if we just had an alt season, then I will be like, yeah, it all checks out, right? And it's ready to go down. But it is sitting low. There is no retail yet. There is no euphoria yet. We haven't seen all these things that's usually part of the cycle. We haven't even seen that yet. So if nothing is checked off, then why would we say like, well, everything turns out to be different, but we're going to now say that it's the same when it comes to topping out? That doesn't make sense to me, right? At a certain point, we will hit a huge bear market where prices go down a lot. But let's be fair, prices haven't gone down a lot, relatively. I know what you think. Well, there are coins down 80, 90%. Sure, definitely. That's definitely true. But relatively, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. If you were in crypto in like, I don't know, 2017 and you watched some altcoins going down, you're like, yeah, that's bad. That's really bad. So I've been buying a bit. And, this cycle, again, we seem to compare, and I'm now looking at others, everything outside of the top 10, right? That's the shit that we invest in. Like, I'm not gonna buy Bitcoin at this point. If I look at the Bitcoin dominance, I'm like, yeah, buy Bitcoin right now, like a little too late, right? But if I look at others right now, it is pretty clear. This is not a typical 4-year cycle, as we already seen with the ISM. The ISM shows that, hey, business cycle, and therefore the S&P, the stock market, and crypto, it often has a 3-year cycle, a 4-year cycle, but the last 3 cycles, the business cycle had a 4-year cycle. And that made people believe that there's something in crypto called a 4-year cycle. But again, that's not even the case, right? Because the ISM goes back 75 years, but crypto wasn't around back then. So nobody was there to witness that. And if you look at crypto itself, yeah, even the halvings to the next halving, like that's not even 4 years. So try to realize, like, it's called a theory for a reason, right? It's not a proven thing. And it looks to be more like this is somewhat of a more sideways period. I mean, if you look at the altcoin market, we are sitting at the same levels as where we were in December 2023, right? The altcoin market, the lower cap altcoin market, has been going sideways for 2 years right now. Does it mean that it's bad to buy it? Like, yeah, I mean, if you buy it somewhere and you're planning on holding it forever, sure, there's a bigger chance that altcoins die within 2 years than that they explode in 2 years, right? But that's the thing. Take profit. Right, take profit. There are a lot of opportunities in this altcoin market where we're able to buy something low and sell it high. Low, high, low, high. Right? But if you only buy whenever it's high because, well, look at this video comments probably, because whenever things are low, the sentiment sucks and nobody has the balls to buy, yeah, then there's no profit to take whenever it's high, of course, right? If we look at this now, based on all of that and the ISM and the business cycle, etc., I expect honestly that this is some kind of a sideways period where we had the first leg, sideways, second leg will be coming, right? And it's kind of like 2019. People said this was bear market right here. I don't know. In my opinion, this was bear market, top to bottom, and this was bull market, and whatever happened in between, right? Otherwise, we had like 10,000 bear markets and bull markets. Like, I don't know. But it looks to be a little like this, right? Put in a high somewhere, put in a slightly higher high, put in a slightly lower high, got a capitulation, and then went up. Matter of fact, if you take a fractal from, I don't know, this point to around this point, and you overlay it, you can see that it is somewhat the same, right? And I'm not a big fan of fractals, but it is kind of similar right here, right? So if you look at this, then I'm like, well, this makes more sense, right? And that's here, and you know what came after, than to say like, well, this was the top, right, in 2024, which makes even less sense if you believe in the 4-year cycle, because then we just had a 3-year cycle actually. But okay, right? And then it should be something like this, where we topped out, and it will be like this, right? Then it's already invalid. So be open-minded at least, right? The market is going to take people off guard. It's going to take you off guard. It's going to take me off guard. Right? It's going to do what it's going to do. For now, I'm just looking like, well, what's most likely? And if I just look at what's most likely, interest rates are high right now. They are now talking about cutting. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Right? And I know that there are also people that say, like Cowan said, and I'll refer to him because he made a good point right there. He said, well, the last time they were stopping QT, for example, so let's take a look at the Fed balance sheet. Last time they stopped QT, right? Bitcoin topped out a couple months before. I'm like, yeah, okay. If that is the case, if Bitcoin for some reason front runs the Fed, which seems like it could be that that's the case right now, right? And whether the second time is now a coincidence or not, or that, you know, there is actually something to it, I don't know. Then again, Bitcoin topped out and QT indeed stopped. By the time QT stopped, right, Bitcoin was sitting at, what was it, $9,000, give or take, right? What happened? Bitcoin went from $9,000 all the way down to $6,500, right? And then we had COVID. Let's exclude that. Like, we should be open-minded. It could always be a black swan. But again, if you are assuming that there will be one, then, like, I don't know. Overall, though, if you look back at last cycle and you bought at around 10K, 10K, was that bad? Like, sure, you could here say, like, let's be out of the market because it could go down here. Yeah, but you could also say, let's be in the market because it could go all the way up here. And then for me, it's more like, okay, so there is around this much room in this case to fall, right? And there is about this much room to go up. Risk, reward. Is this ratio worth it for you to be in or out of the market? Ask yourself that question. There's no right answer to that question, right? Some people think it's too risky for me. Some people think it's too risky for me to actually miss out on that. For me, it's a second. I'm not saying that that is the right answer, but again, that's different per person. But again, we have QT that's going to stop, which is a good thing eventually, especially for risk assets within this risk asset, right? Altcoins. Rates are being cut. The M2 is going up. The ISM, again, this is an oscillator that oscillates forever, since 75 years. We all know that this eventually will go up, right? So I'm like, why would I now be out of the market? Because it might go down right here because, hey, maybe QT will continue or maybe they won't cut rates. Like, that's not really the most likely outcome right now, right? But, you know, anything could happen. But there's so much more room for the upside. And we know that it's going to get there. I mean, like, it's not a guarantee, but come on, 75 years of history. Let's be fair, right? So I'm like, let's place our bets based on that. And is there a guarantee that it will go up very fast? Yeah, it could take a while. Could take a while. And the real downside that I see is that there are project owners of shitcoins that don't understand this kind of stuff. And they only look at 4 year cycle and be like, oh, fuck, and they rock their coin or whatever. And then you get screwed. Right, so be careful in what kind of coins you are sitting right now. Make sure that you are in the higher caps, or at least in the coins that you feel like, hey, this founder knows about this market instead of being like emotional because he controls your money at the end of the day, right? And therefore, I started to purchase some stuff, right? Because one, alts are juicy right now. The reason that I don't mind these low prices is that I was not all in right here. I did not write it down, right? Like if you look at Superverse, it went from $2.20, for example. Don't steal this script, by the way, it's for blockchain decoded. But if you look at this, went from $2.20 to 22 cents. I know what people could think about this. Well, that's bad. That's terrible, right? Well, if you wrote it down, yeah, that sucks. Like, I'm not like here sitting denying that, like, that's great, right? No, that sucks. But why would you write it down like that, right? Because it also went from 7 cents to 2.20, right? There were a lot of profits, and this reflects basically any altcoin, right? One is looking better or worse than the other, but right, it had a good run, and then it went down a lot. Yeah, look, the same over here in this cycle. It had a good run, and then it went down a lot. Right? But the going down a lot is a great thing, because if you buy around that area, then at least this run-up is meaningful to you, right? Otherwise, if you didn't buy here, yeah, then this doesn't mean shit. And now we are in the same camp, right? Now we are, again, where it's going down really hard. And that eventually gives the opportunity that finally makes you able to make these insane gains. Because whenever we are already here, yeah, like then what kind of gains are you able to make, right? Then it has to go from 220 to like $40 to make a 20x for you. And if you then start to do the math, that's becoming slightly impossible. But now it's simply a fact of like, well, even going back to the non-alt season all-time highs for this cycle is already a 10x. That doesn't sound impossible to me, let alone if it goes down here, for example. And it's a 20x. And that's at least like, then we're talking about, hey, these are things that are not even possible, but probable, right? So I started looking at my portfolio and I noticed that I'm happy that I had a good amount in cash because of course, the coins that I have, I wrote them down slightly with it, like depends. Arrow took some decent profit lately on this one and been taking good profits here and there. But overall, yeah, I'm still exposed, right, to the upside for sure. But you also have to realize everybody that became rich with crypto, they first had to go through losses. And if you look at, I don't know, Dogecoin, for example, right? In the last cycle, right, here. You could say like, well, people that bought Dogecoin here somewhere, they made a sick gain right here. Sure, but if you look at all these wicks, these were not nothing. Even this small thing, if you zoom out, it's nothing. But this was going down 55%. And we had like 10 of that in a row. And one was bigger than the other. Right? This one right here, it went down 73%. And people felt like shit. They feel like it's dead, it's down. Overall, you have to go through that shit to even eventually get there. Nobody is perfectly waiting for the extreme lows, buy everything right there and then write it up. That's just simply not how it works. You have to go through it, right? So I'm looking at my portfolio and I was like, what's my goal at this point? And for me, to be transparent, a 4x, 5x from this point and I am set. So I was looking at my portfolio and I'm like, I like my lower caps, the high risk coins, and I'm not necessarily selling it or selling it all. For example, I like Joe, right? But it's fucking getting wrecked right now. Why? Because it's a low cap. We have just seen it's a risk off market. And again, it has nothing to do with altcoins necessarily, right? Although a lot of altcoins just suck. But I've showed this before. If you look at the Russell divided by the S&P, the low cap stocks versus the high cap stocks, and you overlay it with altcoins on the Bitcoin pair, it looks exactly the same. And that all leads back to macro, right? So we are in a risk-off environment at this point. And when it's in a risk-off environment, this is what happens to these coins, right? Doesn't mean that they are dead. A lot will be, and a lot are. But we have also seen in the last cycles, altcoins, they are now, this one, for example, is wrecked with 93.6%. Some were wrecked with 99% in the last cycle. That's all the way here, right? This coin can go down 8 times as much from this point still, and it could still not be that. But I don't feel the urge to find out if this is going to happen while I have my money in. Right? Why would I? Because at this point, I have no reason. If my goal is a 4 or 5x, I can look at low risk shit. I can look at ADA. I can look at Link, at Render, at Super, which is already high risk. I can look at Sui. I can look at Dogecoin, Deepbook, right? At AVAX, at Tau, at Near, all these kind of coins. I'm like, man, to be honest, all of these, easy for my goal. So why would I take more risk if I can get my goal returns with the lower risk ones, right? And I want you to think about your portfolio as well. What's your goal? If your goal from this point is a 20x, and then you have to look a little riskier than that, but also be prepared to get wrecked more in the meantime, right? That's simply what it is. Maybe not, but be prepared for it. Right, so this is just the market itself, which is now risk off. And it's normal. according to the average YouTube comment, of course, it's dead. It's not going to happen. And then it's like, ha, you're stupid for buying. Yeah, look, I mean, maybe it won't play out like that. But it's stupid if you look at these low prices and now are saying like, oh, you're stupid for buying. Where were you the last 4 years when it was higher? That doesn't make sense. But that's emotions and you have to let it go. You really have to let it go. Now, if we look at certain charts though, it's like pretty like we can look at narratives. And at the end of the day, it helps, but the chart's already showing it, right? Like it is pretty clear actually. Because the narratives, again, are there. QT, rate cuts, yada, yada, yada. All fine. But if we look at certain charts, we already see how and what. Again, alt season, altcoins on the Bitcoin pair. It's been bad lately. It's been bad. Altcoins, terrible. Yeah. Yet, altcoins are not making newer lows since 1.5 years. They're holding up. It's boring. It's now time capitulation. But it's not money capitulation. Last cycle, altcoins on the Bitcoin pair, they went down, excluding this wick right here, 81%. This time, they went down 71%. Right? That's a big difference from that level. 81 would have been here. Would have been this exact wick, actually. Right? That's what happened last cycle. This time, so far, it's not that deep, but it just takes longer. And that's maybe even harder. Right? But this shows it's holding up. The dominance for Bitcoin, ETH, and stables sitting at a fat resistance right here. And to be honest, it's holding up there for a long time, but the bears are just simply not able to push it through. They try, and every attempt turns out to be a wick and nothing more than a wick. That's it. Right? Also, the total crypto market divided by the S&P. People now say like, oh, stocks are performing better. Stocks are performing better, yeah. Just like here, 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 here. If you zoom out, overall, and at the end of the day, crypto wrecks stocks. It's just a moment, right? And it makes you emotional. But look at the big picture. If you look at what's interesting, actually, Blockchain Decoded, we are going to release this very soon. Right? The risk levels for Bitcoin, for example, 33% right now. That's quite low, right? This is quite low, actually. If you look at the Fear and Greed Index, it's now sitting at 10%. Yeah, is selling at so much fear, is that the right thing to do? Ask yourself that honest question. Now, I am fine-tuning, by the way, this risk indicator that we are releasing on Blockchain Decoded, and this is going to be pretty epic, actually. Gonna call it the risk wave, but also what we are able to see right here is the following. So if you look at Bitcoin, right here, then it's going to show you more. Now, if you look at BTC, right, you see that in every market, it goes to risk level 95. Here it went to 85. Here it went to 92. Here it went to 91, right? See, like, eventually this risk level, this is an oscillator. It looks at the previous movements and how it's moving right now, and there is a whole calculation behind that. But this is an oscillator that will eventually go back to 90. But let's say this goes to like 80, right? Pretty bearish, but still, let's say 80. What we can see then is this. At 80%, the price will be $250,000. The historical time from the current risk level to get there has been 170 days on average. Right. The time at this risk level, where we are sitting right now, on average, is 3%. And then I'm still fine-tuning this to see how much time we also spend below this risk level. But overall, you can see that we don't spend a lot of time at this current risk level right now. And from where we are right now until 80%, that has been 170 days on average. 170 days on average is, in this case, here, May, the beginning of May, right? And this is not a projection, I want to say whatever, but we work with averages, right? This is saying that in that period, was it 260, give or take, beginning of May. Right? This is saying that this is average. 260K beginning of May. Could be, could not be. I don't know. Probably not, because it's an average, right? But it just shows, like, hey, make sure to keep in mind that this is possible. And it sounds unrealistic, but again, it's the average, right? It happened. It happened more than that. It happened less than that. That's an average, right? And it kind of lines up with, hey, bye-bye, pal, right? Hey, liquidity cycle. It's not that weird. It's not that weird. Bitcoin always had a euphoria stage, right? Because from this point where we are right now, that would mean that it's a gain of 170% in 170 days. This will no say, yeah, okay. Well, 170% in 170 days. If you look at a, I don't know what Bitcoin did right here. Here, for example, it went up 250% in 100 days, right? And that was the most diagonal bull market, actually, not even to mention 2017 or 13. Right? So keep in mind that these things are possible. Now, one cool thing about Blockchain Decoded is that we also show all these risk levels where a certain price will be if it hits a certain risk level. You have a table right there. You can screenshot it if you want. So you feel like, hey, I don't have to subscribe there because I don't like you with your stupid platform, but I'm going to use it anyway. That's nice, but this is dynamic. This will be changing tomorrow. But you can select multiple assets, how it's looking for ETH Bitcoin, for the altcoin market, on its Bitcoin pair, on its Ethereum pair, for the total crypto market, for the USDT and USDC dominance. And that's the last thing that I want to show to wrap it up with, because a lot of people nowadays come in my comments and say that, you're a perma bull. No, a perma bull is someone who's just always bullish for no reason. I provide 30 fucking minutes of reasons why I'm seeing this, and you are commenting that it's not going to happen without a reason. You're a perma idiot, right? So let me show you one other thing that is looking really interesting right here. It's also based on an indicator that I've created for the platform, and that's the oscillator risk metric. And the oscillator risk metric, very simply, and it works well on the ISM, by the way, because it's the biggest oscillator out there, basically. But it shows how much time historically have we spent below the level where we are right now. Right, so then you can very simply see if it's flashing green, then it spends less than 20% of the time below the level where we are right now. Saying basically like, hey, watch out, it's not sustainable at these low levels based on the history that we have. Therefore, only use oscillators, because if you put this on Bitcoin, it's going up. So this thing is always red, basically, right? For the ones that wonder, oscillator is something that just goes up and down, up and down, up and down, sideways from 0 to 100 or 20 to 80, whatever, but that doesn't go into discovery, right? On the ISM, you can see this very clearly. But what else can you see? Well, what else is oscillating pretty nicely lately? Stablecoin dominance, right? Stablecoin dominance. If you look at USDT and USDC, this thing has been oscillating for a long while. And this is now showing red, right? Meaning, watch out. And specific numbers, 98.8%. What does it mean in this case? Based on the last 250 days in this specific example, the stablecoin dominance has spent 98.8% of the time below the level where we are right now. Do with it whatever you want. But it actually is saying like, well, only 1% of the time it has spent below or above the level where we are right now. So watch out being bullish on this chart, because you have a 1% chance that it maybe goes a little higher, basically. That's what it's saying, right? In other words, likely that stablecoin dominance is going down, meaning it's going to get deployed into the market, meaning coins go up. Right? And you can verify also by, hey, here it was the same. Well, that was the top. Here it was red, was the top. Here it was red, was the top. Right? Whenever it's green, bottom, green, bottom. The longer something oscillates, the more history you have, the more accurate it is as well. Now, one last thing. If we, it's actually not what I want to do. If we look at Bitcoin, whenever this was red, like here, or this period right here, I cannot draw a box that overlays also. I'm just going to draw a line, but it's not really one point. It's the whole area basically, right? Whenever it was red, what do you notice? Right? And again, it's not about signaling the bottom because it was red here as well, right? But what do you notice? What happened to Bitcoin right here? From 50K to 100K. What happened here? From 80K to 127K. Now we are here again. And people are now saying it's bad. Okay. Go ahead. But this is not looking bad to me. And even if we get into such a mild bear market now, right? Because again, there's no reason for me to assume that we're going anywhere near 40K, actually. Even if we go into a mild bear market right now, bear markets bounce hard, right? If you look at a real bear market, like here, we had a bear market, for example. We had a bounce right here, 40%. 40. That's a lot, actually, right? And we have multiples of those, right? Here also, we had a bear market, bam, went up 40%. You might be like, hey, what's the point if it eventually goes lower again? It's the same as in a bull market going up and taking some profits right there, right? Because it might go lower, but then it goes up eventually. You could say, like, what's the point of selling if it eventually goes up? Well, take profits on the way, right? And buy back in lower. So that's my outlook on the market at the moment. And that's the reason why I bought a whole bunch of coins. I bought some newer ones as well that I did not have yet. And I honestly completely forgot what I bought. But it's mostly what's in this list right here. But to already let you know if you want to know, I don't know. Then I did it through Kraken actually, because Kraken seems like I kind of like it. I never used it. Yeah, I used it back in 2017 something. But I even bought Algorand. I bought Deep Book. I bought Akash. All kind of coins that you did not hear me talk about earlier. Why? Because they honestly, like Akash, I think that it looks quite good right now. If you check it out, then I'm like, man, look at this. It's Akash. All right, let me put it on a weekly. Huge inverted head and shoulders, by the way. But this is a coin that I feel like, oh shit. I also have an alert set for here, because I think it goes lower, maybe 35 cents. But I'm also trying to look at these things like, well, it went from $7 to 55 cents, right? Am I gonna be all out because it might go lower? Like, if it bounces right now, I would regret not buying this, right? Therefore, I bought, but with the idea like, hey, if it goes low, I'm gonna buy more. I don't go all in. I have a good amount of cash, and I feel great about the market going down. Because again, you are not gonna make big profits if you don't make good entries in the first place, right? This pump here was nice, right? Like nice, 40x. Yeah, here the sentiment was worse than what it is right now. So people didn't buy here anyway, right? Yeah, I want to buy these kind of levels, right? It's very simple. So yeah, let me know why I'm an idiot. And I would say thanks for watching. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel. And that's it. I gotta pee. It's useless information, but it's been way longer than I intended to do. So stay safe. Take care. Don't be sidelined. Don't catch falling knives as well. Don't be all in. Don't be all out. Take your profits, the usual. And till next time.